Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and it's training camp. It's preseason, technically, and I am joined for it's probably been 2 months or something like that by my good friend and frequent guest, Aram in Toronto. What's up, Aram?
Hello, Patrick. It's haven't seen you since Warriors Christmas, probably NBA draft time. I don't even remember the last time I saw you on this and the last time we talked, but it was a nice long summer. Not a lot of postseason to cover, so that's part of it too. I had a good summer, got to do some traveling. Didn't think too much about basketball, but I was in Taiwan. And if you remember, I tweeted you, I sent you a picture, and I was at I was at Taipei 101, and I saw a basketball team getting ready to go up the tower, and I saw a very tall fellow, and I thought for a split second it was Victor Wembanyama. It was not. This guy was probably about a foot shorter than Big Vic. But, I think it was like the UC Irvine basketball team or something like that. But something like that. But it gave me a little bit of excitement for basketball this year. So
that's awesome. Have you seen this thing on? It shows up on my Instagram Explorer. Some dude in the Philippines who kind of looks like Steph, kind of grown like this little beard like Steph. And there's a couple of videos that went viral of him shooting buckets. I don't know if he made any of them or whatever, and then one where he's walking through the mall and people are stopping him and taking pictures with him. And the dude is 5'5". I don't know. And I don't know if there's people that actually think and he's wearing a jersey, of course, maybe the full uniform. I don't know if there's anyone that actually thinks he's Steph, or if they're just like, hey, it's that dude that looks like Steph that I saw on social media, or if it's just like people are taking a picture with this guy who kind of looks like Steph, but a foot shorter or almost a foot shorter. And I'm going to take a picture with him. It's really weird. I'm really confused as to what is happening in these places, but so goes the world.
Well, Steph looks tiny on TV, right? And then, of course, I've never met him in real life, but I know that if I saw him in real life, he'd be a giant, right? Compared to me. So, I think the TV, gives us a little bit of a weird perspective, especially when he's amongst other giants. But I've not seen that guy, so you're gonna have to send it to me and mess up my algorithm.
Maybe my algorithm just sends me a lot of stuff about basketball and then Asia and the Philippines in general. Anyway, so the last time I think we talked, it was commiserating about the shoulder shrug of a season that just finished last year. But put that all aside. It's the first week of the preseason of training camp, and just give me your thoughts on anything that you saw this week, because me personally, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do an episode with some other folks after media day, and gonna tackle whatever happens. And then it was nothing really interesting happened. And from my perspective, that's initially boring, but then maybe that's a good thing, right? Nothing so-and-so not getting the vax. Somebody punching somebody else, although there is time for that still, but
plenty of time.
But right now they got a lot of old heads, a lot of vets kind of tip the scales the other way, and pretty much seems like dudes who are just okay, another media day, all right, let's do it and let's get to work. So
after all the quote unquote excitement of last year, I think we could use a little bit of stability this year, as the team, of course, could use that, and then as fans too. I think not to rehash too much of last year, but it was exhausting, right? All the drama that happened. So to see a boring media day, not so bad. But but still kind of cool to see familiar faces again and some of the new faces, even if they're very old. I mean, I also texted you that image of Chris Paul doing his photo shoot, and I was like, I did a triple take, and I'm still looking at it, and I'm like, that's AI generated, right? I think the biggest thing that made me think it was fake was because he got a haircut, right? Like he was kind of he had almost shaved it down and like in the State Farm commercials, he's got a little bit more hair. So I was like, this is so weird. This is so weird. And I think that's gonna be the experience. But that's what preseason for. I would say the other thing that I realized too is, and it's nice that he brought it up himself in his interviews, was Wiggins talked about some of the drama last year, and he was like, you know what, I also wasn't here for half the season, and he's really looking forward to getting back to it. And it's like, yeah, that was a big missing piece of the season last year. And of course everybody was respectful and giving him his space, but to have him back for his Iron Man 82 game season, that's what we hope for. That's going to make a huge difference. So getting GP2 back, all of those kinds of things, those are things that I'm like cautiously excited for. I mean, after the last few years of having a lot of young players and that idea that like, oh, these guys are going to hit, having some of the old heads that they've brought in, it's maybe a little bit less exciting than usual, compared to the young players. But we still got some young players, and JK might hit, Kuminga might hit, right?
I feel the same way. Like it's the prospects, especially coming off of a title with all like these young dudes, like 3 lottery picks, a couple other draftees, whatever. It was like, oh yeah, like this is going to be awesome. And then obviously it wasn't. Thanks, Draymond.
Yeah.
But that being said, for as awful as last season was, exhausting, tiring, frustrating as a fan, it's very much like refreshing, right? Because we all knew that after the season, when they finally admitted that the punch affected them like crazy, when they were saying all season long, like, no, it happened, we're handling it in-house, we're good, that all of a sudden it's like, you cannot run this back and expect like everybody to do a group hug, stay away from each other for 3 months, and then come back and be okay. So I'm very, very curious. Like the Chris Paul thing, my reaction, I believe, was kind of like to chuckle about it, because I was like, cool, you got rid of Poole, and now you got this old dude who I've talked so much trash about and who is one of my most loathed players of the past several years. I mean, off the court seems like a good dude, but on the court, he's been a thorn in our side, even though we get the better of them most of the time. And but I'm curious. I'm just curious to see how it all plays out and the dynamic on the court, right? Like everything else is kind of, all the BS is just, from media day and the chatter and all that stuff. It's there's nothing there to me, right? Like this idea. Yes, I'm curious to see how it plays out on the court. Yes, whether or not Chris Paul will, fall in line. He's saying all the right things. Like you're reading all these tweets on Monday and Tuesday and the rest of the week. People building off this. Like Chris Paul says, he just wants to win. He'll come off the bench. Or I don't know if he said he'll come off the bench. Don't quote me on that. It's like, yeah, what do you expect him to say? The dude is like a 100-year-old vet, and he's had months to prep, like with his PR team, his agents, who manager, whatever, what exactly to say for media day on that particular day. And it's good. It's fine. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens on the court, because just seeing those clips of Steph and Chris Paul working on the court, I'm like, oh, that's a wrinkle. I really want to see this.
Well, we'll get our chance on I think Saturday, right, against the Lakers, which is always it's always a thing. But I am curious to see. I mean, the defense, concerns me. They have made it a point to say that that is what they're going to be focusing on. And again, like having Wiggins for the full season, having a healthy GP2 for the whole season, like that's gonna help. I mean, you almost like don't even need to say, and they need to stay healthy because they're all old. Like we don't need to say that. That's just like that should be on the top line here, like on both of our screens. Like as long as the Warriors stay healthy, you know.
It's like on Wheel of Fortune when they give you those letters in the final.
Yeah.
Like we'll just give you that as a, you don't even need to mention those things. Although I do mention health all the time.
In terms of things that you're excited about, we covered some of the Warriors stuff. I was curious, are there some other teams and other players that you're excited around the league? Because this is not just we like to track other players and other teams. So I'm curious. Are you looking at new guys in new situations and wondering how that's going to go? I have a few, and then I have some teams like, I don't know if they're, a lot of people will talk about their quote unquote, their league pass teams. So I have a few of those and that I'm really curious about how that's going to work out. So I'm going to give you some of my, my guys in new places I'm excited about. So, now I had to look up the phonetics of this, but, I'm going to mess it up. Sasha Vezenkov in Sacramento. He's Sacramento had a great year last year. It was like such a great feel good story. And they're fun to watch. And this is another addition to their front court. He was a EuroLeague MVP, and which is not an easy thing to do. So I'm really excited to see how. I think when he signed or when he got announced that he was going to be coming over to them, saw some clips and was reading about him a little bit. And obviously the Kings are our competition, but it's just fun to see new players that you've never seen before. And I'm very curious how it's going to work out with them, because they didn't really add that much. They didn't do too big of a change, which you can kind of respect in some ways. They're trying to keep the vibes going, and I guess we'll see what happens with them. Shall I go on to my other guys, or do you have do you have some guys?
No, it depends. How many you got?
Well, I got two more.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This team scares me in a way that they'll be next, but probably next is OKC, and I want to see Chet Holmgren. I think we got one skinny tall guy coming in the league, but there's the previous tall skinny guy from the year before, and it'll be really interesting to see. They take up so much space. They can block a ton of shots. I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be as good as Wemby, but he was a top prospect. And I don't think there's anything to doubt that from seeing some of the stuff that he was able to do in the summer league. How he'll hold up over the season with this Sean Bradley build is going to be interesting. But guy is super talented, and just even the defensive side of things, like that's going to be a really tough matchup.
I remember a few years ago, like I think Wiseman's after his rookie year or something, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see him and Chet Holmgren play each other in the league at some point. I don't think anyone else is ever saying that again.
There's a few sickos out there,
It's funny, dude. Like I remember a few years back, and I think Chet Holmgren was maybe a senior or before his senior year, maybe junior. I don't know. It's all a blur. But like I remember looking at Instagram and my Explorer and seeing like this dude, and I had no idea who he was. I just saw like this really skinny dude, and he looked kind of goofy, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty good. But I was like, this dude's a white Kevin Durant. And then like fast forward, like 6 months, and like, oh, this guy's actually like the number 2 guy or number 1, number 2 guy in his class.
When he was starting to get that profile, I think when he was in high school still, people were starting to write about him. I saw that he was from Wisconsin, I think, and I was like, Holmgren, huh? Like Mike Holmgren, like former Packers coach. I was like, let me look this guy up, and then I was like, no, I don't think not similar body types.
No, it does not look like a cuddly walrus. No,
no.
Who else you got?
Okay, and my last one was I don't know where I saw this on a feed or I was reading articles, and I was like, oh, of course, with the Sixers they have all this stuff that's happening with James Harden and stuff, but then there was a split screen where Pat Beverly and Kelly Oubre were both doing a presser on their media day. So I was like, I'm curious how that's going to work out. I mean, the Sixers are going to be interesting whatever way this goes. So those are guys I want to see how that works, and that's a team. I'm just like, wow. I mean, who knows with them?
Yeah. I think that's going to be a disaster. I cannot believe I'm not following it that closely because I don't really care. But this whole James Harden thing, it's like, oh my God, like how many times? Just look at the the holy trinity that they got over to the Nets, right? Obviously, it's James Harden who's the one who's holding out, wants to be traded, all this jazz, and it's like, oh my gosh, these guys. Hey, it's well within their rights, I suppose, but it's gross, man. And like, why? I wonder how much James Harden thinks. I wonder if he's expecting the max at this point in his career. And I don't know if anybody, I expect no one to be rational enough to give it to him, but also, I never put it past the NBA to, some team to be like, oh yeah, let's do that.
It just takes one team. And, he had a decent year last year. It was pretty good, actually. And if he had just kind of like stuck to it and just go forward and like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's a little weird.
That'll be great in 3 years and 30 pounds more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay. Yeah, my turn.
Yeah.
Teams. I mean, a couple of these are pretty obvious. I want to see Dame play with Giannis. Just that dynamic. I mean, I think you'd mentioned to me like the idea of Steph and Giannis playing is something that has been a curiosity to all of us. Obviously, the idea that after Kevin Durant, maybe we could magically get Giannis over here. But Dame is the closest thing to Steph. Just as a long distance shooter, as a point guard, a scoring point guard, one of the greatest. So I'm really curious about that. And of course, I want him to do well as long as it's not against the Warriors in the finals or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm really, really curious about that dynamic. And I'm also curious because now that the Celtics have Drew Holiday, I'm just very, very fascinated to see that first game that they play against each other is like, you gotta pencil that into your schedule, right? Because that is going to be really, really, really fascinating. Because, like I've talked about this before to you and in general, that I don't believe in the Celtics. I don't believe in Jason Tatum. I think I said that like the last 3 episodes or something. I'm curious to see how this will all play out. I like Drew Holiday. He's my favorite dude on that Celtics team. Mm-hmm. But I hope the Bucks take it to them personally. So that's one team, the Bucks. And then honestly, kind of in connection to that, the next one is I want to see Scoot Henderson. I think that dude's rookie of the year.
Yeah.
I want to see him. I want to see him play with Ayton. If they'll get along.
Yeah.
If Rob Williams will be healthy or if he's going to get traded. And what's his name? Shaden Sharp.
Yeah.
They have a lot of young, fun dudes. And all of a sudden, and now they have a bunch of assets. And all of a sudden you blink and they are in a great rebuilding position, just like maybe not as extreme, but like OKC, Orlando, the Pistons. I mean, whatever that means. So I'm encouraged and very interested to see how that all plays out, because I want to see Scoot Henderson, because there was all that pre-draft chatter with the Warriors, like, oh, maybe they'll trade Kuminga and trade up and get to the number 2 spot and get Scoot Henderson. And I was like, no, but I was like, maybe.
Delusions across NBA fans. Yes. No, the Blazers, that's a great one. I mean, we were talking about like other teams that we're really curious about watching. I mean, that's a top one. And talk about like they did really well. I think against all of our expectations. And because they were so relatively bad the last few years, they have pieces like Shaedon Sharpe, ready to go, and Scoot Henderson. It's like now he can drive, right, without the driving instructor too. He's got his full license, so that's super exciting to see. And we need some of those young teams. Another one of my kind of league pass teams will be the Pistons. They're kind of my sleeper. Like I always like watching them. Convincing Monty Williams to take several truckloads of money to coach that team. Oh my God, that was a big contract. And see Cade Cunningham be fully healthy with a whole bunch of athletic dudes running around. I don't know that
who?
Some big guy that seems kind of recognized. I don't know that all the pieces are gonna fit, but it's gonna be fascinating either way. So that's a team that I like following. And then on the other side of the spectrum is Phoenix. I think when they made the Bradley Beal trade, it was like that roster was like gutted, right? It was just like, who's gonna fill out this roster? But they did a good job of bringing back some of their vets and convincing some others to join there. And then the further moves that they made and turning Ayton into some other usable pieces. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how that comes together. And to say, especially defensively, how that's going to work. But I would expect they'd be a really tough matchup for anybody. So that's definitely one to be a little wary of in terms of the Warriors. But it'll be fun to see.
Yeah. Going back to the Pistons, it's funny, right? Because these other teams that I mentioned, whether it's the Magic or OKC, it's like people see promise in those teams because their young players have developed, and it sucks that Cade has been hurt because he's really good still. He's not a bust by any stretch of the imagination. And they got I forgot which Thompson brother they got, but they have some really nice pieces. And like you said, Monty Williams is the key to all of this. It's it was clear that they needed a change of scenery in terms of coaches, because I mean,
Dwayne Casey.
Dwayne Casey, great coach, but kind of old, kind of like just past his prime in terms of not necessarily relating to the kids, but I just think his coaching and he just doesn't have it, you know what I mean? And like, it's kind of reminds me of that era of 90s Warriors basketball where it was like, we would just get all these retread coaches. And I don't think there's as many retreads in the NBA as there used to be, because there's always promising guys, and they're doing a better job in general of finding coaches from different places, right? Like other benches, right? It used to be like, get the big name college coach, right? Calipari, Rick Pitino,
PJ Carlesimo.
I remember when it was like the Warriors, they're going after Rick Majerus, out of Utah, and it's like, let's do it. Yeah, he's a winner. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out, and of course, I'll keep an eye on Wiseman, not the corner of my eye, but I mean, we can go through all the teams, but the last team that I'll mention that I'm curious to see is the Clippers, because I think they're not going to be very good. I think obviously those guys, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, hurt a lot. So I'm curious to see if they are even going to be, if they're going to be struggling to make the playoffs or
Yeah.
struggling to stay out of the play-in, because I can see that it's done. It's
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
and they didn't get Drew Holiday, so they're kind of last gasps, perhaps.
And last gasp for James Harden too. But good podcast content coming out of Clippers land though. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the announcement, but WNBA new team in the Bay Area. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. More money for Joe Lacob.
Yeah.
Which means more money to spend on the Warriors roster and, the WNBA roster and whatever. No, but I think it's great. I think I don't know how many teams there are, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's great for fans in the Bay Area. And maybe I'll be able to afford to go to a game at Chase Center.
That's right.
That's honestly, right? No, I think it's cool to see like WNBA come into the Bay, and I think it's great for everybody there.
Yeah, I'm starting to follow the WNBA a little bit more, and but one of the things was like, oh, but I don't have a team to root for. So now I'll have a team to root for, which I think will be nice to kind of be able to get into it more. I'll be curious to see what all the details are of the team. Are they going to have, because there were some previous attempts by other groups. Like I think there was a African American led group that was really pushing for a WNBA team, and I wonder if like the Warriors are community minded, at least optically, and are they going to try to make connections throughout the Bay Area to build this team and ensure its success and that kind of things. I mean, just like the NBA, like the WNBA, it's such a great market in the Bay Area to have basketball, and there's such a tradition of women's basketball in the Bay Area too. So it's pretty exciting. I can't wait to hear what the name is, and I hope it's not. Yeah. I hope it doesn't suck, but I hope they have some cool. I hope they have some cool jerseys or something.
Yeah, and I hope Steph uses his clout to get some good players to the Bay. Because he's been such a big supporter of women's sports across the board, and his Under Armour sponsorship. So work on that stuff. So
okay, the other thing in the news today, and I don't know how much you followed it this summer, but Joel Embiid, sources say that he has committed to Team USA for next year's Olympics. He had the opportunity to play for Cameroon, France, or USA, and this report is saying that he is going to play for USA. He had been coy about it. He hadn't made up his mind. But I don't know if you watched any of the FIBA World Cup in the summertime.
Proudly no.
Okay, I did watch it. They had all the Team Canada games on TV here, and so I caught some of that. And without knowing or without getting too much into particulars, like the international game is different. Having reliable big men is a huge thing. So, at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I want Joel Embiid on the team, not because I don't like him as a player, but just like stylistically, it's like, I don't want a big guy like clogging up the lane for all the other stars, right? But again, I was thinking about the international game. It's like, yeah, you need big men, and that was one of the Team USA's big problems. Is Jaren Jackson couldn't stay on the floor, and he couldn't grab any rebounds, and then they had very little depth after that, and you had all these international bigs who really knew how to play that style, and just kind of bullied around. So. Your thoughts on Joel Embiid on Team USA?
Oh, I mean, I think it's great. You know, like I did know that the Warriors, not the Warriors, the Warriors do struggle with size, but no, the Team USA was struggling with size, and instantly it's like, oh, this fixes a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of stylistic fit, I'm curious to see what Kerr does with him because Embiid is skilled in other ways, and it'll give them a chance to have different looks. And you know, like in the '92 Barcelona games, it's like different starting lineups. Remember, Chuck Daly would always throw out different starters, and I think that this is something that Steve Kerr could potentially do. I don't know if he would, but also, and you know, I said this a couple weeks back. It's funny to me, this whole, you know, it's like the patterns of Team USA, right? Like the US is beating everybody. Then in '88, the college guys lose, and it's like, oh yeah, well, we're coming back with our best guys in
Yeah,
'92, and we dominated. And then, you know, over the course of several years, that Team USA became less important to people, and you kind of had like Vin Bakers of the world representing the country, and then all of a sudden they eventually lose. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're getting the best guys together, and it's like, oh, it's the redeem team, we're doing it, yeah, we dominate. And then it's like, okay, well, you know, we did that. And now it's all right, these young dudes, they lost, and it's like, oh, we're going to come back and we're going to dominate. So I think those are the things that are really fun to see
yeah,
when the best players actually come together and all these people who are committing. And of course, Steph, like he's never played in the Olympics, and
yeah.
it's almost like Kobe, right? Kobe didn't play in the Olympics until like later in his career because stuff came up, his legal case in Colorado, and then injuries. And with Steph, it's various things, right? Like what was it, the Zika virus or something in Brazil?
Well, I
And
think that one was also that was 2016, and so he that was after he had that MCL injury after the playoff run too, right?
was
So
that 2016? Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I think that was Rio, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it was Rio. But in general, I'm looking forward to it, and you know, pile it on. You know, Embiid wants to
yeah,
play for the U.S. Great, yeah. You know, like I want to see the spectacle of all these guys, and then see how Kerr puts it together. And I want to see competitive basketball, but I also enjoy back in the day when the Warriors would just be chest thumping. Not the Warriors, Team USA would be chest thumping. Also the Warriors, and just blowing guys out. But I don't, you
yeah,
know, it won't be like that. But it is interesting, right? Like if he played for France, they could conceivably throw out Embiid, Wembanyama, and
yeah. Rudy Gobert, yeah,
Gobert, right? As like
yeah.
all these centers, these 7 foot menaces.
Wouldn't that be
It would be
hilarious
interesting.
and amazing? Like if you had you had all those guys on the front court on the court together. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
you could do some kind of like weird zone or something like that, you know, and cover a lot of ground. So,
yeah.
but we won't see it now. So,
we
um,
won't. We won't see it, man. Are you just on off the side? Like, are you excited about Wembanyama? Are you going to be eyeing him as closely? Because I'm a little burnt out on all the Wembanyama hype from like the last couple years,
yeah,
and that's why like I'm more intrigued to see Scoot Henderson play, uh, just because I think he could be that dynamic.
yeah.
But you know, that's just me.
I to answer your question, yes, I am burned out on it. Uh, but it's for more petty reasons than that. It's because like he went to the Spurs. Like I can't like I'm so mad about that. Like it's not right.
Yeah,
Uh if he was on a different team, if he went to the Pacers or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, I want to see him play. And now I'm just like, I don't want to see another big man in a Spurs jersey, another generational big man in a Spurs jersey. It's like, ugh, give me a break, man. Like it makes me so mad. It's totally irrational and petty, but it's not right.
I thought Popovich was going to retire, or he was talking retirement not too long ago. Did that change before or after the Wembanyama draft pick?
I think he got his extension after, but we'd have to go back and check that. I mean, it
I'll
was
ask some
whatever
Spurs experts.
It was whatever 80 million reasons to convince him to come back. So hey, good for him. It's a lot of red wine.
The NBA is better with him in it.
Yeah.
You know? I want to try a new segment just for see how it goes. This might be my new thing, right? Since it's a new season. So I have this thing called Dope, Nope, and Hope. Right.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me something in each category, like, something you think is dope, coming up about the season, about the Warriors, about the NBA, about Bay Area sports. And then the same for Nope. And then Hope. Hope is a little something where you're like, okay, some reason to believe, so.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm gonna go back to what we talked about. Dope is WNBA, and their jerseys better be great. The Warriors better, really invest in the community and get people out for that. I'm really looking forward to that. I was hoping that they would add a team in Toronto that, I like you said, that I could afford to go to. Let's see. Hope. I mean, we joked that they need good health, but like we need like a Rick Celebrini masterclass this year, and like whatever it takes. I guess I really want to see this team give it a real shot, and I think with their recalibration, getting the vets in, it's like, okay, you didn't want the kids, like you want to do it your way. I think Mike Dunleavy was responsive to that. I think ownership was responsive to that, and here you go, and it's in a way it's kind of there's a lot less excuses now for this core, like you say you want this and like here you go, right? And they'll still have some flexibility after this, and I think it is a kind of a big swing, this Chris Paul, but Mike Dunleavy always talks about he always mentions whenever this offseason he talked about Chris Paul, they always said optionality. So it's nice that they're not locked into this, and that, hey, after this season, if this doesn't work out, a lot of things could change. So I'm cautiously hopeful for that. Okay. So nope. Okay. I got two for you. You said Bay Area sports wise. So, I mean, I've reached a point with my Giants fandom, this year where, and it's something that a lot of Giants fans have said, it's just, man, it's not very entertaining, and there's not a lot of hope to have, and the kids ain't ready. The vets aren't good. I've been watching some of these wild card games this last week and seeing players who can actually hit the ball and not just like tap it, but like hit it with authority. It's just like, wow, the difference is stark, and the Giants have a long way to go. I mean, it's kind of amazing that they were able to be as close as they were all season. And, part of that was all the optimization that they were doing. But man, it does take some of the soul out of the game. And it's not just the Giants, Blue Jays had a wild card elimination game yesterday, and they made an analytically driven decision, and that backfired. And it just goes against your kind of like baseball logic to say that and to believe in players and to believe that players can play instead of they are chess pieces that are gamed into this model that, yes, of course, like probability makes, there's a case for making an analytically driven probability model and blah, 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 driving your decisions. But But man, I mean, these are people out there, and it's kind of, I don't know. I kind of feel like I would rather go down with people rather than the analytical framework. My last nope is this ties back to Rick Celebrini, is that the Sharks are going to be terrible this year. They are going to be so bad. The worst top six defensemen in the entire league. I feel bad for some of their vets like Hurdle and Logan Couture. I don't know what they're gonna do. They may have a few breakouts, but they don't have a lot of prospects. But this ties back to Rick Celebrini in that his kid is one of the top NHL prospects in the 2024 draft. Yeah, so who knows? A Bay Area connection may come through. The Sharks play as expected and are terrible and get a top draft pick, and then they'll bring I forgot what his first name is, but they'll bring Celebrini to the Bay.
Okay. Those are all very, very good dope hopes. My dope, I did have WNBA listed there, but you took that and we talked about that a lot. But so my dope thing is, did you see this thing? You know, Pablo Torre, he talked about, or he had somebody on talking about what Jordan Poole might have said to Draymond Green.
Oh, yeah. I did see that.
And it was, paraphrasing, you're just an expensive backpack for 30.
Yeah.
And I cracked up. I think that is dope. I think that is funny as hell. And I just,
you like that, huh?
think it is. Yeah. I think that is hilarious. It's not a very deep contribution by me to this category, but like, I just thought that was really, really, really funny. And whether or not it's true, whether or not it's something else, people have said other things, whatever, it put a smile on my face. And I definitely do not take that for granted at this point in the early season. I guess it came out at the end of the off season. So I thought that was hilarious. And it cracks me up that set Dre off. It is what it is. My nope is very connected to this, because you know that I've talked about how much I dislike Jordan Poole's game and how I couldn't stand watching him last season.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where I was like, oh, maybe he is good. Maybe he is this guy. And this is over the past few years. And it was like, nah, you know? And that, as I said before, like somebody had to go. But I'd always sided with Poole in this, you know, Draymond punch thing. And seeing clips of him in his Wizards uniform on media day, shooting buckets, I'm actually happy for the guy. And like, my nope is that, you know, to hell with Jordan Poole, like hate. I want to see the kid do well.
Yeah.
Like, I am really like, rarely does a player leave the Warriors where I'm hoping that they'll do well. I mean, now there's two of them, right? I'm Wiseman and Poole, because partly maybe because I'm older right now, and like these guys are so young, and you know, I'm like kind of, yeah, these kids, you know, just wish them the best. I guess people really mean that sometimes. But looking at Poole, it's like he went through such BS here with some of this stuff. And yeah, he's a brash kid, but like, he's not the biggest trash talker in the league. He's not the most selfish player in the league. He's not the worst player in the league. You know, he's not the most delusional player in the league. So he got a raw deal, and he's taking the high road smartly, because to talk back to Draymond in the media is a losing proposition, right? So I want to see him do well. I want him to be like, you know, I want him to make Warriors fans feel like, oh, well, maybe we traded the wrong guy. Not because I want to see the Warriors do poorly, but for the first time, like, I want to see this guy who left the Warriors really, really flourish. It's like when Gilbert Arenas left, I was like, oh, I hope he's not as good as I think he's going to be.
And he was better. Well, you know what? Jordan Poole helped us win that championship. He helped us win a couple of those playoff games. So I always be thankful for him, and I think he's gonna do well. He had a tough situation coming in to that terrible year, and he was also terrible, and he worked his ass off to become what he is, and getting that contract and getting to the point where he could, uh, be on a new team that wants to give him the keys, and more power to him. And yeah, I hope he does well, and he'll be up there in the scoring rankings. Just don't fall down so much,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm hoping that his game will evolve. That's kind of what I want to see. I'll be looking from afar. And then again, that was my nope, because nope to the Jordan Poole antipathy. The hope is kind of obvious, kind of normal, but I'm hopeful for Klay Thompson this year, because he seems to get the whatever mental block out. He played over the summer. He looks good. He seems like he has this burden lifted off him a little bit more. It feels like it's never going to be fully off, but every year is a little bit more, maybe, or with every month of playing. And also, he's in a contract year, and I understand that he's not a max player, but he sure as hell is going to play really, really hard and really, presumably, really, really well. And I'm also looking forward to seeing his minutes with Chris Paul and seeing how that goes. So I think I'm hopeful that he's going to have a really just excellent season. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder at Jordan Poole. So I'm very hopeful for that dude. And, I just want to see him. I don't necessarily think he'll be an all-star, but he played well, led league in 3-pointers made last season or something. But just having that full consistency, not starting off the year with, tired legs and a rusty stroke. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing, as you said, Gary Payton is back and healthy. Andrew Wiggins hopefully is with, on the court more than half the season. And then Klay, he wasn't really Klay early in last season. So a full season of those guys, more or less, that's a lot. And when people say, look at the roster, it's, how they gotten better since last year. It's like those three things are additions that a lot of folks overlook, right? Because they're so used to seeing those names on the roster. It's like, you add Wiggins in the mix for, what was he gone, 3 months? And that gives you a bunch more wins. Maybe not on the road, because they still didn't like each other on the road. But also, Wiggins was Poole's, seemed to be Poole's closest friend on the team.
That's true.
And Wiggins was gone for a while. So that's another gap in the chemistry. So, that's my dope nope hope.
Yeah. Let's hope for some more road wins this year.
I mean, I think last year was such an aberration because of that the probability of them trying to playing worse on the road is nearly impossible. Considering reasonable health, and also because they have more vets. They're not going to get shook. You're not looking at the bench and seeing Wiseman, Kuminga, Baldwin Jr., Moody, and Ryan Rollins. With deer in the headlights eyes. You know what I mean? So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to the start of the season. But anyway, anything else you got?
No, let's get to this Warrior season. Let's have a good one.
Are they going to beat the Lakers?
No, not on Saturday.
Is it in LA or is it in the SF?
I don't even know.
Who really cares?
It's preseason. Where's preseason? We don't know these things yet. Come on.
It's at the Agua Caliente Stadium, or whatever that is.
A neutral site.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
See you soon.
Always.